Prince Harry arrived for day 2 of his testimony against the Mirror Group, the tabloids he alleges hacked his phone. Did today's testimony go any better? Spoiler alert, no. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore, and yes, Harry is back in court today, smiling to the press. Now, we learned something yesterday from Steph. There is apparently a private entrance. He's choosing to go this way to give that nice smile to the press. Interesting choice when you could just avoid all that. But no, he's going there. And yes, he arrived for day 2 of his testimony. Now, yesterday's coverage, I gotta say, I was rooting for him. As I've said before, and I'm not ashamed to say it again, I thought he'd have a better case here. And so far, I have not seen a lot of evidence. Now, did today get any better? Ooh, well, let's let you guys be the judge. All right, opening up the PowerPoint. Thank you to Steph for all this amazing work. Go subscribe and support Steph, the Alter Nerd. She's been up early getting all this ready for you and for me. And then let's get into day 2. All right, so here's how day 2 started. We got the best bits of the transcripts that we're able, because again, they don't allow cameras, but we'll give you the best we can. All right. Harry, they're going through more of the articles in question that Harry's team has picked out to point out that this was clearly too invasive, too intrusive. It must have been hacking. People, Harry Carey, story including particular information of the claimant being left off marches at Sandhurst due to his knee injury. It said cadets at the academy were furious that the prince had been left off grueling runs after he said he hurt his knee. The Mirror Group denies a payment of £150 made for contribution to this article and says that much of the information came from a confidential source who specialized in royal matters. They claim there had been numerous previous reports about his ongoing knee injury. Prince Harry agrees he did give injury quotes. So once again, his own quotes coming back to haunt him. The lawyer for the Mirror Group, Mr. Green, said that Harry talked about his own injury and his disappointments that he couldn't march. These were quotes that were in the article. This gave detailed information about the condition of your knee, didn't it? And it also included quotes from you, didn't it? Prince Harry agrees to both points. That's in reference to while I was at Sandhurst and the distrust I ended up having with the medical staff as a result of this. All right, well, who gave you the information? Now, I guess, to be fair, medical staff should not be revealing that, in which case that would be unethical. And where are these sources? It is a little sus that these are, what do they call it? Confidential, specialized royal matter sources. It is a little questionable. I will give Harry that. Injury only of public interest if it's life-threatening. The Duke has suggested stories about injuries he has suffered could only be of public interest if it was life-threatening. So once again, now here's where Harry loses me. He's trying to be the editor of what's newsworthy and what's not. Discussing an independent article that was published before the People article, the Mirror Group's site, Mr. Green tells the court that a senior officer had raised the issue that other Sandhurst cadets might feel Harry was getting special treatment. Harry gets pressed about what he would constitute public interest story about him. I don't believe it affected the well-being of society, Harry responds, of whether this story about his injury would be of public interest. Asked about what he would consider a public interest story about himself, Prince Harry says, I'm not entirely sure, other than speculating a life-threatening injury. I could save a lot of time by talking about the article itself as opposed to just the injury. So again, he's just trying to get into look, that seems like an article to say that the cadets are upset because he's getting special treatment because he got a knee injury. So what that does seem relevant to me. I don't see why he's saying that shouldn't be news. Realms of speculation repeated by Mirror Group. The lawyer is again suggesting that Prince Harry is in realms of speculations. Common theme yesterday, and now, again, you're going to hear it again heavy today. Challenging him on claims that his ex-girlfriend, Chelsea Davy, sorry if I'm saying it wrong, that her phone was hacked by Mirror around the same time. I believe at the same time that my number was also in Nick Buckley's Palm Pilot, and he was a prolific hacker, the Prince Harry responds. Mr. Green used the phrase on Tuesday when the Duke admitted he was not sure whose phone it was hacked when he broke his thumb playing football, and it appeared in the media. Now, it is strange that their numbers are in these hackers' phones. Again, I'll give them some points here, but we need proof. We need evidence. I don't like the Mirror Group. Let's be clear. I do think they're tabloid garbage, but we got to prove them of doing illegal acts, right? People's story was littered with inaccuracies. Harry tells the court that People in question was littered with inaccuracies, as he again admitted to not seeing stories at the time they were published. I'm suggesting that the article was littered with inaccuracies, in which Mr. Green responds, so it's inaccuracies that you're complaining about? Prince Harry disagrees and tells the court that he says he was emailing with Miss Davy every day. I was one of the few cadets that was allowed my mobile phone at night when everyone else had theirs taken away in the first 5 weeks. Well, that seems unfair. Oh, special treatment for Prince Harry, as always. Asked when he first saw the article, the Duke responds that he can't remember, but it was somewhat distressing going through it again with my legal team. Somewhat distressing. So not even really distressing, somewhat distressing. Most of the articles I don't remember seeing because they were so many, but all of them were equally distressing. And it's more distressing going through them again. Yes, I believe so. Prince Harry responds when asked whether he's claiming that the article involved phone hacking. But again, no proof. Prince Harry says the palace dealt with phone hacking investigation. Nearly two of the 2006 News of the World's articles, and News of the World, for the record, was garbage in itself. And yes, they're shut down. But they had 2 articles that Prince Harry, William, and Chelsea were the result of phone hacking. Mr. Green says these 2 incidents of phone hacking by News of the World were voicemails of those close to Prince William. Asked if he recalled these articles, vaguely, yes. Following the publication of these articles, News of the World then there was a police investigation which focused on phone hacking of members of the royal family and those around them. The Duke says he doesn't recall talking to the Metro Police about this, saying that it all went through the palace. It was all out of our hands. There were no arrests of Mirror Group journalists, Mr. Green tells the court after noting that News of the World journalists were arrested. Now, again, to give Harry's team and legal thing a point, I get why they suspect the Mirror Group. It's probably, again, let me put my legal speculation up. It's probably very fair to speculate that if News of the World was doing it, Mirror Group was probably doing it too. But perhaps the Mirror Group was being much more smart about it, and they're not going to get caught like News of the World did. And that's the problem Harry has to face here. Now, I'm not saying they did. I don't know, but they're reporting a lot of stuff right after News of the World. So I understand the case here. And this is, again, the stuff I was expecting to see more of. But the problem is we need evidence. Risk was worth the reward for the phone hacking. So Prince Harry indicated that the reward for journalists far outweighed the risk. He made the claim during 2 News of the World articles that the voicemails, there was very little to go on. It was unprecedented. I don't think anyone, even the police, knew about how to go about it, about that previous News of the World articles and the reveal that there was phone hacking. Then you can assume that any journalist would be taking enormous risk in hacking you or your brother's phones after the convictions, Mr. Green asked. Fair question, right? I think there was risk right from the beginning. I believe the risk is worth the reward for them. Now, again, hugely speculative. The lawyer asks, that's a valid question. All right, so 2 journalists got caught. And maybe Mirror Group was doing it, but then was like, oh, we got to button up and be careful because, yeah, this is not good and we're going to get shut down like they did. Maybe, right? Why would you risk it? Do you guys agree? Is the risk worth the award of getting shut down and convicted? Seems a bit of a stretch, Harry. Duke admits he would feel injustice if this was not accepted. So during the witness statement, he says he repeatedly made references to call data, and Mr. Green asks if he's aware that there is no call data from Mirror journalists linked to Prince Harry, which Harry says, well, that could have been a burner phone, and that could explain it. And Harry's right on that one. Again, I can be objective here, and Harry's right on that one. If the court found that you were never hacked by any Mirror Group journalists, would you be relieved or disappointed? Harry says, I'm not entirely sure whether I would be relieved or disappointed. I believe phone hacking was at an industrial scale at all 3 of the papers at the time, and that is without a doubt. I would feel some injustice if it wasn't accepted. So you want to have been phone hacked? He then pushes to ask. Nobody wants to be phone hacked, my lord. Good answer. And yes, he's trying to get him to admit it. And look, I'm sure they might have done some shady stuff, but here's the problem. We can't just go off your speculation, Harry. We need proof. The court has turned the next article, the People, in which Chelsea Davies angered Harry in a string of phone calls after he visited a lap dancing club. Mr. Green says that Harry's visit to the Spearmint Rhino had been widely reported the previous day in other publications. It's factually inaccurate, Harry says, to point out that one of the lap dancers was tall and statuesque blonde that bore a passing resemblance to Chelsea. The Duke calls this article a classic example of the Mirror being one step behind and trying to catch up to an article published in another paper the day before. But here's my problem. Yeah, you're admitting The Mirror just wasn't as good, maybe because they weren't hacking, right? That's a reality he's got to accept. Maybe they were trying to do it above board, and that's why they were a step behind. You're almost admitting it. And they also talk about, they probably paid some people from the Spearmint Rhino for this information. He said it was very suspicious that they had Chelsea's phone number, which sure, that is point. At this point, knowing that my girlfriend's number was bizarrely in the hands of Mirror journalists, they would have access to her call data, Harry says, suggesting that they got the story from analyzing this data. It's very suspicious that they had her number. I don't believe she would give the Mirror Group or any journalist her number. Harry points to 3 payments and says one of them is probably to someone who works in the club. That is what I would do if I was a journalist. So all right. So you had me. It's like, where'd you have the number? But then Harry goes and does the same thing Amber did. Remember, we're like, well, I would do it far better than that if I was doing it. Like, admits their own sneakiness. Harry admits it right now. Yeah, of course I'd go pay off the club. So he knows how to do it. And he's admitting, well, that's what journalists do. So is it okay then, Harry? I'm confused. You just said that's what you would do. Oh man, he's always surprising me. Harry, but that's a little shocking, right? That's the funny one. Harry's barrister interjects. David Sherborne, then representing Harry, interjects and says, your lordship is aware that journalists are not coming and Mr. Green needs to be very careful in stating that something happened as fact. The justice responds, Mr. Sherborne is right in principle. You can't invite Prince Harry to agree that something specific happened when you have no evidence to support that. Then going back to Cross, Mr. Green goes on to focus on the payments, one made to a news agency, Ferrari Press, and asks Harry if Harry finds them reason to believe his or Chelsea's phone had been hacked. They are all incredibly suspicious. And fine, they could be suspicious, but we got to prove it. The Duke, he called him the Duke. I feel like I'm watching G.I. Joe. Harry, I'm going to call you Harry. Sorry, I know you want to be called Prince because your ego needs to be called Prince, even though you don't want to be the Prince. I'm going to call you Harry, not the Duke, not the Prince. Harry, a discussion turns to People article about Harry flying to Africa with Miss Davy after finishing Sandhurst and about her father's company. Mr. Green points out journalists may not have known about the trip because it appeared in a mail on Sunday a week before being reported in the People. Harry agrees that this information was stated before. So once again, how many of these articles were reported before the Mirror Group? That is this huge mess up on him and his legal team. How do you mess that up? Harry tells the court he never discussed with the palace any details about his relationship with my girlfriend, Chelsea, in relation to an article published in the People 2007 about the couple's romance in crisis. Everything as attributed to a palace source, I believe, was obtained unlawfully because I never spoke to anyone about my relationship with my girlfriend because it was private. The suspicious part of it is attributing quotes to a palace source that either doesn't exist or certainly doesn't have any information about me or my girlfriend. So suggesting, well, then it must have been obtained unlawfully. So we are in a land of total speculation about whether this was voicemail reception. Not at all. I don't agree. Now, I will say this is where the Mirror Group, I think, looks insanely suspicious because I do believe he kept things with his girlfriend private. How were they getting this information? I don't believe she was leaking it. She was clearly very anti-press. She's not doing press now. She could be bashing Harry all she wants and making a fortune on it. She's not. She seems to be like keeping that relationship private, and good on her. So where did this come from? That is a fair question. I think the one where the Mirror Group has not really sufficed in answering it. They're just saying, well, you can't prove we did it, can you? And it's like, no, but come on. And it's hard, but that's the job of the lawyers and Harry. And so far, I sense some suspicion, but I don't see evidence. Now discussing the 25th article, hooray, Harry's dumped. That is mean, which he describes as mean. I mean, they're allowed to be mean. I'm not entirely sure how anyone would have known we had broken up because, again, we didn't talk about this regularly, he tells the court. News of the World published details. The information about the split and the quote about the reason for the split is very similar to a News of the World article put out the same day, says Mr. Green. Now, interesting, same day, before or after? Before or after? It was from earlier. Okay, it was earlier in the same day. There we go, corrected. Yes, that's correct. But I believe the first edition of the News of the World story about the fact that I'd been dumped was every reason for an editor to ask journalists, why wasn't this our story? Now, that doesn't prove they hacked the phone or did something illegal, though, Harry. I don't get it. Is there more information in the Mirror article that is really damning and more private than what was in the News of the World article? Or should you have been suing News of the World and the people behind that? Oh, they can't because it's shut down. This is the complication of this case. So yeah, I understand. I don't understand a lot of this. Nightclub was where I was when I went to. Occasionally, they're talking about this now. The new one, Amica. However, the Amica nightclub, the Amica Cream nightclub in West London, that Prince Harry and Chelsea went to frequently. The judge interrupts and asks if Harry ever went to Amica. It wasn't particularly pleasant coming out to a whole heave of paparazzi or otherwise, so it wasn't somewhere I went occasionally. So it was somewhere I went occasionally, but not regularly. I wouldn't say I was there once a month, which I guess the article said. But back to the hooray for Harry's headline. He couldn't remember whether he read it, but he found it hurtful to say the least. Going through it again now, hooray for Harry. Hooray, Harry is dumped was hurtful to say the least. That such a private moment was turned into a bit of a laugh. I mean, they're allowed. Doesn't mean it's not mean, but the fact that the payments were referred to as Project Harry is incredibly disturbing. Now that's interesting. There's an invoice with invoices that say Project Harry. I'd like to learn more about that. All right, I will give Harry a point on that one. The level of surveillance that I was under was quite something. Mr. Green then asks, you're not suggesting that Hooray Harry was a reference to celebrating that you were being dumped, are you? And Harry says he is. I would say it is too. Clearly, that's what you're trying to imply there. Again, if it has been used before or not, for me, the subject or victim of this, to see the word used in this term is hurtful. Now, he's right. Let's not wah about it. You're a celebrity. It is what it is. But come on, Mirror Group. That's a mean headline. The article quotes that Chelsea got tired of his hooray lifestyle, whatever that means. It's not celebrating the demise of your relationship. Nice deflection there from what's Project Harry? Now that one I want to follow up on. Project Harry? Okay, interesting. 26 article examined by Mr. Green is a Daily Mirror article, Down in the Dumped. Ouch. It's a good headline, though. Mr. Green points out that the trial separation was widely reported the day before in all the Sunday papers. Harry says he will take his word for it, but adds that the complete narrative nature of the media industry would encourage them to find a different version of the same story and move on. But that doesn't prove hacking, Harry. There's like interesting things here that make me wonder what's going on. But he's so hung up on this. Yes, but it's the industry standard to go and make the story even more salacious. But prove it that they did something illegal. Just because they're speculating or guessing or putting stuff out there, they're tabloids. I mean, they are. That's not what this is about, whether tabloids can go make speculation. It's about, did they get unlawful information? And he's getting so hung up on his hatred of the tabloids that it's distracting him from the real case here, I think, and it's going to hurt the case. Harry tells the judge he accepts the distributed Mirror quotes reported elsewhere. Yes, these were told elsewhere. It's easier, if easier, I accept rather than going through every single one each time, Harry tells Mr. Justice. Mr. Green then asks him, so you accept it was reported in other papers? Yes, I can see it on screen, Harry responds. Harry says he can't remember if he read the article, but again, a lot of these quotes are attributed to friends, and by this point, myself and Chelsea were not sharing anything with anyone. The court is now taking a 10-minute break. Let's see here. Next up, the court's back in session and cross-examination has turned to the 27th article, a short story about Harry dropping off Miss Davy. The title, okay if I drop you off. It is based on a photograph taken of the couple on a private road just off High Street, Kensington in London. Photographers were only there for pretty much emergencies or big moments of the royal family, be it wedding, engagements, hospital visits, something like that, Harry tells the court. He says it was suspicious that they were present that day. To know a photographer was there, poised and waiting, highly suspicious. But again, suspicious. Mr. Green quickly turns to 28. Harry's fear as mobile is swiped, and they talk about this phone that was stolen. And again, the phone was obviously locked up and password protected. Mirror argues that the story was reported by another press agency in France in the morning on the previous day, and then picked up by the Telegraph before running in the Daily Mirror. So two sources, and Telegraph's a big one. Mr. Green tells the court that the French press quoted someone from the L'Estio Defense Force. The lawyer then reads the palace sources were quoted from the Daily Telegraph when they picked up the article. Harry says there was nothing suspicious about this article other than the attribution to a palace source. You question the legitimacy of the Telegraph article? to which Harry says yes. So again, just who's the palace source? Who's the palace source? Harry. People in the palace were talking behind your back. I think that's safe to assume. That's what they were doing. Doesn't mean it was illegal. Next story, it relates to a story titled Soldier Harry's Taliban. In the story, including information about Harry's professional life, including being banned from going back to serve in Afghanistan. Harry confirms he was evacuated after an Australian journalist broke the embargo on his activities, and an American website reported it. Harry tells the court he didn't talk to people over other than Jamie Lower Pinkerton, a royal aide, about his feelings about not being able to go back to Afghanistan because it didn't feel great. He goes on to say that Mr. Lower was targeted in this phone hacking case and he was the point person. And so he says, Mr. Green asks, why wasn't this guy here then to prove this in evidence? He's finished his role working for the institution, working for myself and his brother, and I think he would prefer to have a quiet family life after settling his phone hacking case, Harry tells. He thinks? Why wouldn't you want to put this out there? If he's really the guy who was caught, why wouldn't he step up to help here either? Just to go on the stand and say, yeah, it happened. It's weird that they're not there. I got to say, that is not a good look. Mr. Green has now moved on to the 30th article. He just loves boozing and army. She is fed up and heading home because he's loving boozing in the army. Details the breakdown of Harry's relationship with Chelsea, and he loves the army more than her. Mr. Green claims that the article was broken as a world exclusive by the News of the World, and in a lengthy article that had a lot of detail. Asked whether Chelsea might have changed her Facebook relationship status, the Duke says, I doubt she would have done that. Mr. Green asked if there's any particular information from the Mirror article. He says it's more suspicious. Lots of quotes attributed to a friend of the couple. He points to a very expensive payment referenced, asked whether he first saw this article in the Mirror. He doesn't remember. This is a past girlfriend who now has her own family and is in the process of distressing. This is all distressing for me as it is her. Imagine that for her. Imagine it for Meghan. It's just weird going through all this. But good on Chelsea for not making this more salacious than it could have been. They didn't go into what a way Harry on. Again, a lot of this is getting a little repetitive. Copy and pasted from a previous press association. So again, this was used before. Mr. Green asked whether the Duke is suggesting there's anything suspicious or unlawful. Yes, because I've been shown 6 payments to private investigators, both private and commercial, adding that the evidence has been destroyed. Now, I do bring that up because while a lot of this is repetitive, that's a little sus. That one I'll give Harry another point for. He's getting a few more points today than he did yesterday, just in responses and proving that there's more to it. And again, why we should be able to ask these questions to the press, but apparently the judge says we won't because they'll just say, we can't tell you our source, and I don't fully understand how that's legal. We are now dealing with the final article, cross-examination, Chelsea's new fella. Mr. Green says the private information of his relationship and his attempts to win her back by bombarding her with calls. In the previous article, I was on a date with someone else. Mr. Green says Chelsea's supposed friends seem to have been sharing information about her relationship to the press, which is where Mirror Group journalists obtain the information. Not people, one person, and even then I would question the validity of this email, Harry responds. In another case that I have ongoing, it is known that Rebecca Brooks was creating emails. Now I need to learn more about who that is. Is that someone from the Mirror Group pretending to write emails? In which case, finally, we'd have some evidence. Interesting. So we'll have to wait and learn more about that. The court has now turned to Article 15, which was missed out of Tuesday. Harry is a Chelsea fan. We're going back in time. A pretty blonde with whom he had been on a holiday with. Harry's complaint is the fact that they revealed her private information in her life. In the witness statement, Harry writes that he can't understand how any of the media knew where they were, who she was. But Mirror Group's lawyer, Mr. Green, tells the court that 2 days prior, the article was public knowledge that Harry had been with a mystery blonde in Argentina, and it was inevitable consequence that the media would want to try and figure out her identity. And then Mr. Green shows the court an internal Mirror Group document, a night log, which shows one of the journalists working out and finding the identity of the blonde girl with the help of a freelancer. What this shows is that locals in Argentina were telling the press the name of this young woman, Chelsea or Kelsey. It shows that individuals was relying on freelancers to find out what can we get on this girl, Harry points out. Mr. Green shows the court that her name has been published 2 days before, to which Harry responds with a very quiet yes. Again, Harry's problem is like, well, what are we allowed to report? And I'm sorry, Harry, you don't get to deem what's allowed to be reported. Was it deemed illegally through phone hacking is what the question is. Harry admits Chelsea's information was public at the time of the story. By the time the article in the Daily Mirror, her identity and your relationship were already in the public domain, weren't they? Harry responds, yes. Mr. Green tells the court that Mr. Harwood is making the point that 3 construction workers were his source to certain aspects of the story. Harry points to being besieged with photographers to a remote polo lounge. Oh, wow, 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 wow. Claim launched after bumping into a barrister. Now, this is how they ask, why'd you even do this? Well, I bumped into Mr. Shorborn back in 2018. Prior to bumping into him, you weren't aware that you had a claim against the Mirror Group? Not at all. Unlike the position of the News of the World, you've never been able to identify any story in the Mirror Group newspaper which was written as a result of a message left on your phone, were you? That's a question for my legal team, but I believe phone hacking started at Mirror Group. Is it right to say that when you first went to solicitors, you were discussing a claim against News Group? I think it was a discussion about how to find a way to stop the abuse and intrusion that was coming against me and my wife without relying on the institution's lawyers. So again, there's a bigger plan, and they went to Mirror Group first because they thought that'd be the easiest. Harry, you might have bumbled the case. I may have been hacked every day over the last 15 years. He believes there's an industrial scale of destruction of evidence, and unlawful information gathering in relation to him, which Mr. Green asks where he gets this idea from. My legal team, he responds. Mr. Green asks whether he thinks his phone was consistently hacked throughout the 15-year period, and it could have been happening every day, a daily basis. I simply don't know. Asked if he's aware of any evidence to show this. No, that's part of the reason I'm here, my lord. So he admits, no, we don't have all the evidence. We're here, and that's valid. We should be able to report, ask these reporters and people, but from what I'm told, the judges deem no because they aren't required by law to reveal their sources. And that's really what this case is about. Well, where'd you get the information? We're not going to tell you. It's like pleading the fifth. We're not going to tell you. Journalistic law, we don't have to tell you. So would they even get anything out of it? You'd think you should try to get something, but that's the crux here. So that's the end of the cross-examination. Harry's lawyer is now stepping up as I record this. We'll give you another, Steph or myself will give you an update on the end of day 2. So please, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. I don't know why it's not showing. Oh, there it is. Hit the bell for all alerts so you get notified. Smash the thumbs up and leave your thoughts down below. What do you think? Was this a little bit better? Do you think there is some sus stuff there? I want to hear your thoughts. And stay tuned for more here on Popcorn Planet.